The soldier was born in Crescent, Oklahoma, to a Welsh mother and to a US Navy father. His parents fell in love. His father was stationed at the US military base in Wales. The soldier showed early promise as a boy, winning top prizes at science fairs 3 years in a row. He believed in the truth, and like all of us, he hated hypocrisy. He believed in liberty and the right for all of us to pursue it and happiness. He believed in the values that founded an independent United States. He believed in Madison, he believed in Jefferson, and he believed in Paine. Like many teenagers, he was unsure what to do with his life, but he knew he wanted to defend his country, and he knew he wanted to learn about the world. He entered the US military and, like his father, trained as an intelligence analyst. In late 2009, aged 21, he was deployed to Iraq. There, it is alleged, he saw a US military that did not often follow the rule of law, and in fact engaged in murder and supported political corruption. It is alleged it was there in Baghdad in 2010 that he gave to WikiLeaks, he gave to me, and it is alleged he gave to the world details that exposed the torture of Iraqis, the murder of journalists, and the detailed records of over 120,000 civilian killings in Iraq and in Afghanistan. He is also alleged to have given WikiLeaks 251,000 US diplomatic cables, which then went on to help trigger the Arab Spring. This young soldier's name is Bradley Manning. Allegedly betrayed by an informer, he was then imprisoned in Baghdad, imprisoned in Kuwait, and imprisoned in Virginia, where he was kept for 9 months in isolation and subject to severe abuse. The UN Special Rapporteur for Torture, Juan Mendez, investigated and formally found against the United States. Hillary Clinton's spokesman resigned. Bradley Manning, science fair all-star, soldier and patriot, was degraded, abused, and psychologically tortured by his own government. He was charged with a death penalty offence. These things happened to him as the US government tried to break him, to force him to testify against WikiLeaks and me. As of today, Bradley Manning has been detained without trial for 856 days. The legal maximum in the US military is 120 days. It is his administration that boasts on his campaign website of criminalising more speech than all previous presidents combined. I am reminded of the phrase, the audacity of hope. Who can say that the President of the United States is not audacious? Was it not audacity for the United States government to take credit for the last 2 years of progress? Was it not audacious for him to say on Tuesday the United States supported the forces of change in the Arab Spring? Tunisian history did not begin in December 2010, and Mohamed Bouazizi did not set himself on fire so Barack Obama could be re-elected. His death was an emblem of the despair he had to endure under the Ben Ali regime. The world knew, after reading WikiLeaks publications, that Ben Ali and its government had for long years enjoyed the indifference, if not the support, of the United States, in full knowledge of its excesses and its crimes. So it must come as a surprise to Tunisians that the United States supported the forces of change in their country. And it must come as a surprise to the Egyptian teenagers who washed American tear gas out of their eyes that the US administration supported change in Egypt. It must come as a surprise to those who heard Hillary Clinton insist that Mubarak's regime was stable, and when it was clear to everyone that it was not, it must come as a surprise that the US backed its hated intelligence chief, Omar Suleiman, who we proved the US knew was a torturer, to take the realm. It must come as a surprise to all those Egyptians who heard Vice President Joseph Biden declare that Hosni Mubarak was a Democrat and that Julian Assange was a high-tech terrorist. It is disrespectful to the dead and to the incarcerated of Bahrain's uprising to claim that the United States supported the forces for change. That is indeed audacity. Who can say that it is not audacious that the President, concerned to appear to look leaderly, looks back on this change, the people's change, and tries to call it his own? But we can take heart here too, because it means that the White House has seen that this progress is inevitable. In this season of progress, the President has seen which way the wind is blowing, and he must now pretend that it's his administration who made it blow. We agree when President Obama said yesterday that people can resolve their differences peacefully. We agree that diplomacy can take the place of war, and we agree that this is an interdependent world that all of us have a stake in. We agree that freedom and self-determination are not merely American or Western values, but universal values. And we agree with the President when he says that we must speak honestly if we are serious about these ideals. But fine words languish without commensurate action. President Obama spoke out strongly in favour of the freedom of expression. Those in power, he said, have to resist the temptation to crack down on dissent. It is time for President Obama to do the right thing and join the forces of change, not in fine words, but in fine deeds.
An important aspect was largely overlooked yesterday after the details of that secret memo from Deputy Attorney Rod Rosenstein were reported in the media. Rosenstein reportedly authorized a criminal investigation of the former Trump presidential campaign manager, Paul Manafort, a week after the federal agents raided Manafort's house. Someone who did not overlook that is former Whitewater Deputy Independent Counsel Saul Weisenberg. And Saul, I'll get to the oligarchs in a second, but just to expand on what Byron and I were just talking about, does the timing bother you?
No, it doesn't bother me. I think it's understandable. First of all, in the original order from May of 2017, Rod Rosenstein said, among other things, you can look at anything that Comey was already looking at. There's a current investigation. You're allowed to look at anything that Comey was looking at when he testified about the investigation in March. And in August, Rosenstein clarified that Comey's investigation included two things about Manafort. Number one, did he collude with Russians to throw the election in violation of the law? Two, the money he got from the former Ukrainian dictator. So he did not do it after the fact, as some people are saying. He clarified in August, a week after the Manafort raid. Now, the question is, a good question from Byron, why didn't he do that? Why didn't he issue the clarification back in May when he did the original order? And I do think they were worried. Probably Mueller was worried, and maybe Mueller went to Rod and said, look, we wanted you to make it clear in writing what our authority is. We think this is our authority. We want you to make it clear. That's what I would guess happened. But it wasn't an after-the-fact authorization.
Well, I mean, he needed a clarification. That's clear.
He wanted it in writing. That's right.
Why?
That's absolutely right.
But why?
But I mean, I
was
take
he
him at
getting
his
worried?
word. I don't think...
So you say it's black and white, but he clearly didn't think it was black and white. He had to go back and get reauthorization. And to tell you the truth, you're the expert and you've been through this. But as the layman on the outside, my hope is to get to the bottom of the Russian meddling. What does that have to do with Paul Manafort's days in the Ukraine? I don't care what he was doing.
Oh, I don't think it has anything directly to do with it, and it may not have anything indirectly to do with it. Remember also that Mueller has the authority to look at anything that he discovers or arises during the investigation if he gets authorization. But here's the key thing that people are overlooking, I think, is that Comey is the person that was already looking at this. If we believe, and I don't think Rod Rosenstein is going to lie, if we believe his August 2nd letter, Comey was already looking at this, and that's the question you need to ask. Jim Comey, you're being very aggressive back here in looking at an old investigation involving money from a Ukrainian dictator. Boy, you're sure aggressive in this investigation. Why weren't you so aggressive in the email investigation? But let me make something clear.
Yeah.
If Mueller had gone to Rosenstein and said, you know what, I don't know if I have the authority to look at Manafort, Rosenstein would have been completely within his rights to say, I give you permission to go do that. That's not what Rosenstein is saying has happened. What I think happened is Mueller anticipated the very motion that he ultimately got, a motion to dismiss based on a faulty appointment order from Rod Rosenstein. And I think anticipating that, he said, you know what, Mr. Rosenstein, just make it clear for me. We understand that this is already within our purview, but could you put it in writing so that there's no question? And, of course, Mueller used it in his response to Manafort's motion.
Sal, here's what I worry about. Here's what I worry about. I want to know about this president, the candidate who became president. If you want to know about meddling or collusion, let's hear it. But if you don't like the way he bought his Scottish golf course or his New Jersey casino, and they start going off on that, I think you got some real problems in this country, from supporters and detractors.
I think you're totally right. On the other hand, let's just say that something was discovered that's a little closer. Let's say relationships with the Russians that we didn't know about, serious relations related to money laundering. Not saying it happened. That might be something that people say, well, you know what? If Mueller discovers something that serious, maybe somebody should look at it. But listen, I totally agree with you, and I agree with Byron about something very important.
Real quick.
It doesn't look like they have it. It doesn't look like they have anything on President Trump. I don't think there's going to be an obstruction indictment, and I don't think there's going to be a criminal collusion indictment. And by the way, I don't believe I would ever advise any client in President Trump's position to go in for that interview. If you're a subject, you're still in very serious danger.
All right. Maybe he's listening. Saul Weisenberg, thanks so much. Appreciate your expertise, especially at a time like this where everything's so much in secret and innuendo and secret sources.